Again, welcome to the Alumni Association. We're focusing on technology in the classroom today. As I mentioned, I'm Ryan Hess, and I just wanted to kind of start with this diagram. You might have seen it before. It's been on social media a pretty good bit, but it is kind of a play on Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And so if you're familiar with that, it's, normally that food, water, shelter, warmth is the basic need. And just kind of a connect for us to remember that, us too, and certainly our students that we teach, they are so involved in technology today that like battery life and Wi-Fi and the ability to be connected, so it's not like a basic psychological need, obviously, for food, water, and warmth, but they often feel like it is. And so just to kind of set the purpose for today, we're really going to be talking about how to leverage their native and natural desire for technology and learning. So this is sort of another kind of hierarchy that you might be familiar with as teachers, educators, and whatnot. So this is actually Bloom's taxonomy, which we talk about in learning, and with the bottom level being like that recall or remembering that very basic level all the way to the top. And this is just kind of a juxtaposition of Bloom's taxonomy with different technology tools. And so that's going to be kind of my angle for today, is to give some technology tools that will be helpful resources for you in those first areas where we're helping students with recall and basic understanding and applying knowledge, and then also kind of stretch your thinking on how as your comfort with technology increases over time and as you use it in the classroom, how there are some other ways that we can really go beyond those basic technology integrations as well. So a few things that might be tangibly helpful to you in the immediate future, and then just some food for thought as you grow and develop as a teacher who uses technology for learning. So with that said, I want to just kind of go through our agenda and goals real quickly. Here's what I hope we'll accomplish today. Identify some resources that you can quickly use in your classroom. Really think through how Bloom's taxonomy applies not just to learning, but also how we use technology and how that enables students to learn and at what levels. Look at some technology tools and resources that we can use with students. And then finally, help you start developing an expanded vision for how you might be able to go at some point in time beyond basic technology integration in your classroom if you want to really begin transforming your approach with it at some point in the future. So again, I'll just call out that we have the chat feature there, and if you want to chat online using that feature, you're welcome to do that at any point. I'll be keeping an eye on it, and so I welcome any of your comments. I'd love to be able to respond to it or for you guys to chat with one another. So feel free to use that chat feature throughout our time together today. So as we think about Bloom's taxonomy and that basic recall or remembering level, just a quick resource that might be helpful for you in that. This is cram.com, and it's a place where you can find flashcards that people have made that are organized by subject and standards, and you can also create your own. It's completely free. And so there are, we want to get students beyond that basic recall level, but there's definitely times where we need some aids to just help them in that process. And so, if they don't know basic facts sometimes, particularly in math, it's really hard to get them beyond that. So just a quick resource, and again, that's kind of my purpose here in the first part of the presentation, is just to highlight a few quick resources. And also to think through how they apply to different levels of learning with our students. So going up a level from basic recall to understanding in Bloom's taxonomy or comprehension, here's some great resources that align with that, and you could do different things that would take it up to the next level as well, but would definitely help with, in this case, reading comprehension. So on the left there, you see storyonline.net, which is a really cool website that has free books that are read by famous actors. Like you see there, it's highlighting one by James Earl Jones. So there's pictures, there's words in there, and the actor can read, or you can, have students read by, controlling that kind of setting. Similar to that, there's one called WeGiveBooks.org, and it has some books that span primary and some more advanced, some higher grades as well. Starfall.com, if you teach primary grades, you're probably already familiar with it, but it's so good and so popular that I felt like I had to call it out. If you teach pre-K to first grade, maybe second grade too on some of those, lots of free activities from phonemic awareness to books that can be read to students or that they can read as well. And abcia.com is a similar site that goes all the way through the elementary spectrum. So lots of sites with good resources, and I want to just cap this kind of highlight off with on the right there, readwritethink.org. So this site is through the National Council for Teachers of English, and it's a very good site for pre-K through 12th grade, so for everyone, which the other sites necessarily, some of them obviously are more primary oriented, but there are lesson plans and activities and interactives organized by grade level and content standard. So it's a really, really powerful site that has lots of great resources available for all teachers throughout that spectrum. For math, I just wanted to highlight two. There's lots I could highlight, but that really helps students with comprehension and understanding. The National Council for Teachers of Mathematics site has lots of lesson plans organized by standard and grade level, of course, and also interactives and activities there. So you would go to that site and you would click on classroom resources. And then Illuminations, it's kind of part of the National Council for Teachers of Mathematics site. You can see by the web address there, but it's really entirely separate. They bought it at some point in time, and it's got games, lesson plans, interactives, activities aligned to standard and strands, pre-K to 12th grade. So in a more general sense, lots of just good resources aligned to standards. This site's been around for like 15, 20 years. When I started my career in education and when I was a technology coordinator, I relied on it pretty heavily. But they still are doing a pretty good job keeping it up to date, and it is pre-K through 12th grade. So this is like an aggregator type site. So the folks who run this site, they don't create resources, but they find them, all over on the web, like funbrain.com, Scholastic, and they find activities and resources online that they then align to content standards, and not just reading and language arts, but science, social studies as well. So I just wanted to quickly highlight a few of those and also kind of, again, point out in Anchorus and Bloom's taxonomy that it's, we know our students learn that way, and so finding resources that take them out of the book and using technology is a big win. But that most of those will still kind of keep us in that those more basic levels of Bloom's taxonomy that you see on the right. So as we want to start using technology to get to really advance students' thinking, aside from just helping them memorize and learn and comprehend information, we're really starting to think about productivity tools. So you may be familiar with some of these. I'm sure you're familiar with the Microsoft Suite and PowerPoint, but I'd be remiss to not call that out. I also wanted, if your district doesn't block the Google resources, the classroom resources, they have a free version of PowerPoint that's web-based, and you can get there by google.com/slides. The same thing for all the other productivity tools. So they have a version of Excel and Word. And if that's not possible for you in your school, and if you happen to not have an Office suite on your computer or your student computers, or even your home computer, not everyone knows that there's a program called OpenOffice, openoffice.org, that you can download for free and have locally on your computer. So it's not cloud-based, and it has a version of PowerPoint, Excel, Word, it's not called that, but that's what it is. So that might be helpful for you too. And then there's also a great storyboard tool and some other tools that I just wanted to call out on pbslearningmedia.org. So all of these things, as we move up the hierarchy and really help students, apply what they're learning, when they're beginning to create things from their knowledge, these are some tools that can be helpful in that way. So also, as we kind of move beyond the great thing to do and important of finding good technology resources to kind of supplant traditional forms of instruction, but if you get to the point where you really just want to change the way your classroom looks and feels and the way learning is in your classroom, that's different than sort of what we've been talking about so far. So there is kind of a great resource for thinking about this and some examples. I'll show you a couple of videos that I think will be helpful to you. And the website's there below. It's Florida. It's the University of South Florida Research Center that's involved in technology integration. And so they call it the Technology Integration Matrix. And at the top, and I'm not gonna go through all of this. I'm just introducing it to you. But it describes levels that teachers are at as they get comfortable and inspired to kind of transform eventually their classroom through technology, and then what it looks like for students. And they have some resources that help more from a professional development perspective that help teachers who are interested in kind of moving along those lines. So I wanted to highlight a couple of videos. And again, the purpose here, because there's an infinite amount of tools that we can find, lessons aligned to standards. And I highlighted some, but I really also want to provide the opportunity for thinking about going beyond that. So this first video isn't beyond that. It's really living in the stage we were talking about, which is great and very good for students, but it's a tangible example of what it looks like when we're able to find resources for students outside of the textbook. And so I wanted to highlight that in a very positive way because it is. And then in the next video, I want to kind of contrast that with as you move along, what that might look like later in your classroom. So without ado.
Well, my class is composed of kindergartners and first graders. Well, we have guided reading groups, so I will have a small group of students working with me, and then the rest of the class is out working on various activities. And the goal is to find activities that tie into the lesson that we're doing or tie into some kind of phonics or literacy skills. So today what we were doing was we were having them work on a website that dealt with their literacy, their phonics skills. So what we're trying to do is keep the students engaged. Well, these websites are actually on our school's webpage because our tech specialist has a pretty detailed website that we can pull things from. And these are also activities that the students have access to at home because they can pull up our website and go to links that will take them to starfall.com is a really good one for reading literacy activities, and that actually had some other activities, and there's a variety of different levels.
So if you're willing to kind of jump in and participate for just a couple of minutes, I'd like to see your takeaways. If you can pull up the chat screen there, I would really be interested in what was good about that, what was the strengths of that approach, and then any other observations that you might have. I'd really be interested to see. So if anybody wants to chime into the chat, that would be great. I'll pause for a second to give you an opportunity. Thank you. So one thing I thought was great was how deliberate she was about tying in the tech tools into her content standards. You nailed it. So that's exactly right. So when we talk about the websites we were kind of looking at and sort of the beginning of that approach, it's not always so clean and nice like that. I mean, it's easy to dabble in technology and it sort of be random, which I think as teachers we've probably all struggled with. It's tough. You can find lots of cool things, but that alignment of standards is really important. So great comment there. Thank you for adding that. That was a good takeaway. So I'm going to play the second video, which really shows a teacher who I'm sure started there and is really more into that complete integration and transformation stage with the way she's using technology. And the reason I'm sharing this is because I think it's another best practice. I think we just saw one best practice. It's another best practice to really think about what the possibilities are, beyond what we just saw. So I'm going to go ahead and play this one.
Your computer center, you're going to finish your PowerPoint by adding pictures to your words. These are kindergarten students. In the classroom, we are reviewing endangered animals, and what we do is we go to centers, and the children have made a project with these endangered animals, and they're taking them into the classroom and creating PowerPoints for each of their individual animals. We're also discussing the habitat, environment, weather, vocabulary words, describing what it means, and giving examples of each word. As they work through this, they each do their own taping. They also will go in and edit their film and make sure it's what they need. They will put it into Windows Movie Maker, and they will create their own little vocabulary so it's contextual for them and they can understand what the words mean. With the technology, the students really understand what they're doing. They have ownership of what they're doing. They enjoy it. It's entertaining and fun as well as educational. And they just keep working on it, and they have more excitement about what they're doing. And they have better remembrance of what they have, and they retain that information.
So 2 examples of best practices at a different stage and different purposes of using technology in the classroom. And I would love to just kind of open up the floor to hear some of your thoughts on that. So I do see a comment here from Jesse. Well, when our student taught kindergarten this year, we did not have near that amount of tech available for student use. Glad you said that. I love the approach of having even the youngest use technology. Mike, thanks for chiming in there. So some really good points there. Getting technology for that kind of use is a challenge, and I'm going to provide a resource that you might consider that will help you in there on not this slide, but the very next one. And some of you may have noticed that those were both kindergarten examples. That website that I got that from, the Technology Integration Matrix that has videos at different levels, has ones at high school, and I chose to use them both at kindergarten because sometimes there's a bias towards thinking that young students, that they can't do those things. And so that's why I did choose those examples. But the site gives lots of others in different subject areas and grade levels too. So something that if you're interested in kind of going beyond, just a great resource that's free that I wanted to call out is Edmodo. It's a learning management system. It's a non-traditional one. They call it an online learning environment, a social learning platform, I think is the term they actually use. So this is a way that you can provide resources, you can give assignments, you can have links in there, you can allow students to discuss with you and with one another. Again, it's free. So something you might want to check into. And if you're not really sure, a lot of people use it as a professional learning network. And so I've actually worked with people in the past where we started using it at the teacher level so we could be comfortable using it to network and learn among ourselves. And then, as each one of us got comfortable, then we would use it to the degree that we were ready in the classroom. So edmodo.com/training has free on-demand videos that will help you learn how to use it. So I wanted to mention that. And then this is really kind of the last thing I wanted to call out for today, and that it's I want to go back to what Jesse said about not having the amount of tech for student use. It's a real challenge. So this isn't going to get you from zero to like a fully integrated classroom, but it can help get you some things that you want. It's called donorschoose.org. So you might be familiar with different crowdfunding sites. So this is that. This is a crowdfunding site, but it's all about, as you see on the right there, kickstarting a teacher. So what you do is you submit your project, your plea, what you want, what you're trying to do with students, and what you need. My sister, who's a teacher in Alabama, did this year for an iPad. She had a plan for what she could do with her students, with just one iPad, how that could bring some improvement in their classroom. And so she asked for that. She had a plan, that she wrote out, not huge or detailed, for why. And one donor, within a week, she had one donor completely paid for the use of that. So you might kind of choose looking at that website as something that might help you get some resources to get going if you don't really have much. So finally, I want to thank you for your decision to be a teacher, to be a difference maker in the lives of students. In your classroom and in the Teacher Ready program, we have students across the world in numerous countries. So what you do makes a difference in the lives of others, and I think that's why we all chose that profession, and for me, why I still look for ways to contribute in education in a variety of different avenues. So we're here. We hope that the program was a good one for you. This is our first go at trying to do something that might be helpful to kind of get you guys connected, and I'm not going to call myself an expert, but maybe in future sessions we'll find some experts. But I have a good background with instructional technology. So that's what we want to do with these alumni sessions, is just find ways to convene you guys and topics that will be helpful to you, and maybe kind of grow and expand our discussions online in the future. So we'll have different people hosting. We'll follow up with this PowerPoint presentation and also a survey where you can kind of give feedback on your experience, and then also provide some suggestions for topics that might be helpful for you in the future, or different things that we could think about for connecting. Also want to remind you that if you know anybody else who has that love for teaching, wants to be a difference maker but isn't there yet, we have our July cohort starting soon, and we do have a referral program that we welcome you to be a part of. So we are part of Studer Education. My name is Ryan Hess, as I've said. That's my email address. And Mandy, who introduced herself earlier, is kind of leading the coordination of our Alumni Association. And so her email address is there as well, and you'll see correspondence for her and follow-up. So we welcome any feedback or any ways that we might be helpful to you in the future. We would welcome that correspondence from you.